Silent Hill 2 was originally released in 2001 and was very well received. The beloved and iconic game came out 23 years later as a remake. Developed by Bloober Team and published by Konami, which has also published some incredible games like Metal Gear. The main character, James Sunderland, lost his wife 3 years ago, who was suffering from an illness, but ends up receiving a letter from her telling him to meet at their special place, Silent Hill.
Silent Hill?
On your search for James's wife, you find multiple people who affect your journey along the way.
So the game has many aspects to look at, including the gameplay. And something I noticed about this is that when navigating throughout the different area layouts, it didn't seem too difficult, but at the same time it wasn't too easy to the point where it made the game very boring and simplistic. And as you travel along throughout the story and the map, you find different puzzles that are meant to take you into different sections of the map and the story. And for me, these puzzles seemed to be, once again, not too difficult on normal settings. So if you're playing on default, you don't have a struggle to solve the puzzles, but you also don't find it incredibly simple. Therefore, it made the puzzles very satisfying to complete.
So in the game, there are different settings in terms of difficulty. You can change the combat difficulty and you can also change the puzzle difficulty. So if you're a person who likes being very strategic, likes brain teasers, but doesn't feel comfortable in playing a difficult game, maybe your reaction time is a little slower or something along the lines of you're just not good at gaming, honestly. You could just lower the difficulty of the combat and then increase the difficulty of the puzzles. That way you can have a more laid back and chill gameplay session and just have fun.
Another thing that I did notice about the game was the fact that it is a horror-based game and you're meant to be scared throughout the game. For me personally, I feel like I was expecting too much. It really felt like the horror aspect was lacking to me. There was many times where I thought I would get jump scared, where I thought this is a good opportunity to scare me. So I was holding on and gripping to my chair for dear life just to find out that I got disappointed and nothing really happened except maybe a few light fixtures went out.
It's funny she says that because when she was playing the game, you would look at her while she was sitting and she would jump back. Even though there weren't really that many jump scares, it was more so the noise of the game. The sound effects were amazing. When you hear the soundtrack of the game, you feel well immersed and you get really nervous and uneasy, especially when you don't know where the enemies are. You just start hearing noises in the other room and you start questioning, is something getting closer? Is something right next to me? Are they going to come and get me? But now that we're talking about the sounds of the game, we can also talk about the voices in this game. I would say the voice acting is very well done, and I was very drawn into the story. The character models looked amazing, and as I was hearing the characters talk, it actually felt like I was there, like they were having a normal conversation. Whereas when I look back, and I don't mean to insult the original because I know we just came back 23 years later, but the original kind of seems very slow paced when they talk, and it kind of seems like very off when they talk. Like there's a delay in between each person's talking. They tend to talk, and when they talk, they actually respond like 15 seconds later.
I'll be careful.
I'm not lying.
No, I believe you. It's just... I guess I don't really care if it's dangerous or not.
And I also want to take note of how amazing the characters sound when they're actually in action. The thing with James, which is our main character, is that he actually sounds terrified when he's fighting the enemies and the monsters, but he also sounds like he's giving his best. I don't know. You can hear in his voice it's, cracking or it's getting higher pitch, or you can just hear how he sounds terrified. I really, really like that aspect.
Yeah, his voice acting's as good as mine. He goes, "Huh, huh."
No, his is better. better. It's so good. I would just stomp on the enemy for, you know, no reason. Just to hear it a little bit more. But anyways, moving on.
When we compare it to the original, they changed the camera angle from the original fixed angles to over the shoulder, which a lot of people are comparing it to Resident Evil 4. But at the same time, it's kind of like, yo, you know, times have changed. I don't think a lot of people would want fixed camera angles nowadays. Sure, you could say that you yourself may prefer the original feel of the fixed camera angles, but I wouldn't see myself playing a game with fixed camera angles right now. I'm happy that they changed it to the over the shoulders, and just because there's an over the shoulder angle does not mean that it should be compared to Resident Evil. They both had a crazy amount of fog, which for the PS2 it made sense because the limitations of the PS2 wouldn't allow it to render everything at once, and there are mods to remove the fog from the PC version. But I'm glad they kept the fog in the remake because it definitely keeps the same feel, and the atmosphere is just amazing. When I look back at gameplay of the original Silent Hill 2, the animations were definitely very stiff, even though they were amazing for the time. And it just shows how much things have progressed from when I was 23 years younger.
Another thing that I really liked that they paid attention to, not only the animation and the fighting style, but they included that with the map. So when you're opening the map, it makes a really nice sound, and it stood out to me with how good it sounded. But also, if you come across a certain room and you discover something new, or you complete a mission or a quest there, James himself will bring out the map and mark it off as though you discovered something or you completed something in that room. And it's just really cool to see him do it so casually, just pull out a map without you actually engaging that action. Whereas in other games, for example, Resident Evil, if you complete a room, it automatically highlights it for you just for you to know. And I mean, it wasn't really a problem until now that I see other games take the extra mile. And it was just really cool to see.
The game has good optimization and allows for a variety of customizable settings for an improved experience such as FSR, frame generation, and ray tracing. I'm happy to hear that the game has FSR 3, well, more so happy to see, because not a lot of games support FSR 3, and then frame generation's definitely an added bonus if you use controller. Ray tracing, I would love to say I could use it, but since I'm an AMD person, I can't use ray tracing really. So that's a downside to me.
So going back to that whole part of me fighting as James, you know, attacking, I guess I got my karma for doing it repeatedly and too many times, because I did come across one scene where I was fighting a monster, you know, stomping on him and everything. And James ended up glitching onto a table or a chair. I forget which one it was, but he ended up glitching onto it. And I tried everything to get off, and I could not get off of the table or the chair for the life of me. I was rolling, I was attacking, ADSing my gun, nothing was working. And so, unfortunately, I had to reload my save from before, and it was way too far from where I wanted it to be. I was not close enough, so it was really frustrating. You're always gonna have bugs, so I can't necessarily blame it, but it was just like, you know, it was really unfortunate.
Overall, I'd say the Silent Hill 2 remake is amazing. I'm loving the way that they kept the story, they kept characters, they kept the feeling of it. So if you have not bought this game yet, go on ahead and buy it. The game is great. You're going to get scared here and there. Well, if you don't get scared, you're going to feel very uneasy. Make sure you keep a headset on because you want that sound to mess with you.